Welcome back to the Tidy Room Hanger. Welcome to Retro Wednesday. Today is yet a different type of video. I've never made a video like this, but it's time. I want to say thank you to the loyal subjects for making their mask line and encouraging me to complete the vintage Kenner line. All the boxes, and I don't have all the inserts, but I have the ones that I think count the most. And with that, I would have never done it if it wasn't for loyal subjects pricing being way too high, in my opinion. And we're all allowed to have our own opinions. You can go out and do whatever you want with your opinion. And then I canceled all that, and I went ahead and started working on vintage stuff well before any of these QC issues came out. So this video, I'm going to go through this. We have a few things to talk about. Wave 2 pre-orders are up. There's a few other things I noticed while looking at the pre-orders. I have not pre-ordered them. I don't intend to. And then there's some stuff that Ace at Ramen Toy is making. So I'm going to overlay all these pictures as we just have a quick chat on Retro Wednesday talking about M.A.S.K. M.A.S.K has always been at least in my top 5 for a while. It just takes over as number 1 for several months of like what I like collecting the most, alongside with Masterpiece Transformers and stuff. But as you can see, the similarities and what's going on there. So let's get into talking about this and why I went down this road. Directly because of loyal subjects coming up. First of all, I already had a Rhino box. Now that Rhino box was kind of beat up. It's not worth me going to grab it. It was beat up. Both these boxes are nicer, but Loyal Subjects doesn't have the Rhino name. Well, I guess that means Hasbro can't use the name Rhino. Mind-blowing. Got to call it the Mobile Defense Unit, which, by the way, people do point out. We're going shaky cam and zooming in. It says it right there. The Mobile Defense Unit with 2 action figures on the actual Rhino box. But man, it's Rhino, vintage retro, missing the point, right? So my friend in the UK helped me out in getting a box with an insert. One of the things I didn't know was the difference between the UK box and the US box. You could just assume that you could just pull the styrofoam out of the UK box and put it in a US box. It's not exactly how it works. Different shapes and sizes of boxes. As you can tell, they're not the same size, shape. I mean, they're rectangles, but the dimensions aren't the same. You can't just pull a UK foam out, put it in a US box. I didn't know that. And at the same time, I don't really care because the UK box was nicer than my US box, and so whatever, it's fine. But then here's the thing. The price on the Loyal Subjects Mobile Defense Unit, because it's not a Rhino, was the minimum 125, up to the 175 if you want to get a Scott and T-Bob thrown in, which is again another slap in the face that we don't get a card back, a true carded figure, and which is what I really think is what's going to print money for this company. Now, I don't hate Loyal Subjects or anything, but as a consumer, they're still not there for me to buy their stuff, except for I am getting some of the recolor stuff. We'll talk about that. So anyway, long story short, I got both of these for under $200, and I'm fine with it. But one of the things I didn't really realize is that if you're going to chase down a mint in the box and they kept the styrofoam, you're also getting one. There's a high probability you'll get one with minty perfect chrome. And I was like, I just didn't think vintage ones existed like that. Both of these, the chrome is much better than any of the ones I have, which I can't find any flaws on the chrome at all. It's almost as if these were never played with. I just don't get it. Another thing I want to point out is that it is packaged with the ramming device open. And I think that has to do with not having so much pressure on the spring, is why they did that back in the day. So, yeah. So now let's get into the next thing that I would say thank you to Loyal Subjects. Is that Loyal Subjects, they didn't have the styrofoam, they have plastic. So the plastic tray, I just want to say it feels synonymously cheap. in the modern day. Now, I do know it's taboo to do styrofoam, but we're getting styrofoam with what we're seeing from Takara and the Missing Link. We're getting styrofoam from several collectibles, and yet we can't get it with this. Now, the alternative, and the way Kenner did it, was cardboard. Now, cardboard was the cheapest, cheap out, cheap way, but I still would have rather them opt for that than the plastic. I'm not a fan of the plastic tray, but I know it can present well, but the boxes are closed, so it doesn't really matter. So the plastic tray I'm not a fan of that. I would rather have styrofoam, but I would still actually rather have the cardboard, which technically is more of what would be wanted for environmentalist kind of stuff. Now let's get into this Wave 2 pre-order stuff that they've got going on. Wave 2 pre-order, the prices vary from 50 to 80. Now, I'm not a massively huge fan of their pricing, but so the Gator is going to be 65 for Gator, which I'm okay. I guess we can live with that. And then it's 85 for Hurricane. Now, I know you're not exactly comparing apples to apples. It's more like apples to pears. But the other day I saw somebody made a video and they're selling at a show, and they sold 100% complete and looked to be very good condition working Hurricane loose though for $40. So if you're looking for the box, I mean, I guess 85. It's hard to get a vintage one for that, but at least they called it Hurricane according to this pre-order. Now the stealth submarines, they can't say piranha. They can't say piranha. Are you allowed to say fish? Can you name your item the fish? I mean, how much more generic? I mean, piranha. Okay, whatever. Stealth submarine cycle. So Rex, Sly Rax, $50. So that's effectively the piranha was the Condor of Wave 2. The $5 price point to 50. Should by their own Wave 1 pricing structures, shouldn't it have been 30? Then we've got armored assault vehicle. So that's supposed to be the jackhammer, and it's 80. And I'm not really surprised, but at the same time, like, jackhammer is one of the most common and easy cheap ones to get. I'm gonna be curious though, will their little gun fit well in a vintage one? How close is all this stuff gonna be to vintage? What other upgrades will we see for the jackhammer other than I guess all it really is just add-on laser pieces there. So you got blast effects coming with it and all that. So is it worth the price? I don't think so. Again, I'm gonna wait for the Roscon or whatever that is. I'm gonna wait for whatever seems to pop up on sale clearance at BBTS, which gets into another point that this stuff isn't made for kids at all. So kids aren't going to really get to enjoy this unless their parents are collectors and their parents get to share it with them. That is a problem. Now you say, okay, well, no styrofoam because environmental stuff, so they use plastic. But at the same time, why not make a collector grade styrofoam? It doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense other than being cheap. I guess it's more expensive to make styrofoam nowadays because of the environmental impact and all that. So anyway, let's move into a couple things that Ramen Toy is doing. Now, Ramen Toy is actually making a shark, and they're making smaller versions of pretty much everything that they were making before. So they're making their Thunderhawk smaller, and it's their shin line. It's making it smaller, and with that, it's gonna match up to the Kenner scale a lot better. But I never really was too put off by it being 8% larger in the first place. Some people are. It wasn't a big deal to me. I'm not too put out by 8%. It's not the end of the world. But with that, I guess you're going to be able to get the option to do that. You can still get the original chart on their site for like 178. Now you stop and you back it up. I'm like, Mike, how are you bashing the loyal subjects for $80, but you'll buy their 178? Well, I didn't buy it for 178. I bought it at the early bird price, which I think was 117 or something like that. I have to look, but I got the early bird price. So if you buy from Ramen, I suggest early bird price. I also suggest that you buy everything you want to get from them at once so that your shipping is reduced. And there it is. That's how you buy from Ramen and Ramen Toy. So they're still making some stuff. They're also doing a 1/18 scale sly rack. So I don't believe loyal subjects had anything to do with Ramen Toy going into 1/18 scale. I think it's just kind of exploring to see where the market is and just seeing what can be accomplished in that scale. So I truly believe that's why they're going into the 1/18 scale, and it'll be fun. I'll check that one out too, and it'll be a fun look. They should be delivering on their Mobula pretty soon, so it'll be interesting to see that too. And then I'm mostly excited for Bot and Boy or Scott and T-Bob. Scott and T-Bob. That's pretty much, I'm very excited for that. Now, you're going to have the opportunity to get that with a gift pack of them remaking their original, well, it's not Thunderhawk, it's the not Great White either, it's Red Gullwing. I had to grab my own box out to, forgot it was called the Red Gullwing, because third-party names, you know. No, anyway, just kidding. So a lot of good stuff coming there, going on right there. Lastly, I want to get into, okay, thank you, loyal subjects, that nothing is sold out on BBTS of Loyal Subjects Wave 1. Now, I doubt they got a restock, and I just think it was a really poor delivery. Poor Wave 1 delivery. I'm hoping Wave 2 does better. I actually want to see more from them. I want to see the figure packs. I mean, it makes sense. That would print the money. They need to get the figure packs in stores, hanging on shelves. I mean, they've already done it with Turtles. They've already done it. Just, you got to catch that normie casual collector that's in the toy aisle with their kids, and they're like, oh, look at this. Check this out. This is M.A.S.K. I grew up on this. I had this as a kid. And so they don't have to pay $200, $300, $500. I am actually hearing they're making, allegedly, going to be making some of the adventure sets, starting with like Sea Attack, and that we'll see. We'll see if they do that. If so, it's great. I mean, I'm down for whatever. And obviously they can follow all the exact same recipes that Kinder did with just recoloring their figures and putting them out. But I hope best for loyal subjects. And I'm actually buying their grid glow in the dark ones. So we'll see how that goes when they show up. But it's still going to be like next year till those show up. Maybe later this year if we're lucky. But anyway, let me know what you think about this. Do you collect vintage M.A.S.K? Do you collect the modern loyal subjects? And are you happy with what you got? Some people have no problems or flaws with their loyal subjects. Are you happy with the tray? Would you rather have had the styrofoam? Let me know. Does it bother you at all? Your box doesn't say Rhino. How vintage are you with this? And are you in on Wave 2? Let me know in the comments below, like, subscribe, and all this fun stuff. Man, I figured it'd be a fun Retro Wednesday talking about M.A.S.K. I'm actually going to come back showing my carded figures, which is not a huge collection, but I think that'll be a fun Retro Wednesday probably next month. And I don't want to do the same property every week on a Retro Wednesday. So let me know in the comments below, like, subscribe. Tony Hanger out.